Hi everyone, welcome to my channel again. Welcome to Candid Talk Series. So today we're joined by Sufi Abraham, who's a paralegal and also in her spare time manages to fit in learning coaching. So we're going to be understanding what her experience of being a learning coach is and what sort of tips she can recommend. So Sufi, thanks for joining the call on a Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
How's your day been?
Yeah, all right day. Went out with the dogs in the morning. So I've got one female adult dog and three pups. Uh, Adventurous time. Going out with them. Yeah, they run around a lot and they've kept me busy.
Excellent. Great. So why don't you tell us how you came to be a learning coach and your own battles with learning and dyslexia?
Yeah. Um, so how should I start about it?
Maybe your
I
experiences in school, perhaps.
I think for me, I never really liked going to school. It's strange enough, yes, I'm a learning coach, but I hated school. I think that's where it really started for me. When I was younger, so my mum was a teacher. She was initially a lecturer at a university teaching microbiology. And when she had kids, just so that she could be around us more often, she started tutoring people and teaching them at home. Most of it maths and science and history, I believe. And I imagine me as a 2-year-old sitting at this really long desk, like a boardroom desk, and my mum's teaching on the whiteboard, and there are loads of students. They were around college and just like, I think the equivalent is A-levels, doing their A-levels. And this is back in India, by the way. And they're doing this amazing thing and they're reading and writing really fast, and I'm just like, what, how are they doing this? So my initial beginnings with like learning and everything were just trying to copy them. I imitated them. I tried to scribble down on my little notebook and try to, like, there was this other girl who used to sit right next to me and she used to write really fast and it was beautiful, and it was just like, oh, this is my aspiration, I want to do this. And I think it carried on. I was able to learn by imitation and by experience, and just practicing, and it got me through until around year 3, and I was fine. But then I got into secondary school. By the way, I came here to the UK when I was around 9 years old, so I would have started, I missed a year of school and I started year 5 directly. And yeah, it was okay at primary school, but then I came to secondary school. Initially, the first year was okay because mum had some time and she kept up with my studies and stuff, and she used her methods of teaching for me to absorb information. I was doing all right, actually more than all right. I got like for sciences, I got awards for doing the best, getting the best scores in my year, at year 7. And I was in the top tier classes for maths and stuff like that. I was doing okay, and then it got to around GCSE level, and there were some struggles, but it was manageable. But I was just average now, and I was just thinking, what's going on? I just about got into doing my A levels, like with average scores, and then like I had B's, I think. At the most of my grades were B's and 1 or 2 A's over there. And it was okay. And then A level hit. That was a real struggle. I chose English literature, government politics, and maths and stats.
All the hard ones, basically.
Let's just say they were great subjects. I really liked the subjects. They were good. Yeah. But I just wasn't achieving the grades. It was below average, and I was just, I went into this cycle where I was really upset with myself and all these negative thoughts that I'm not enjoying this course. Why is things happening with me? It's lots of different negative thoughts. And I just, in an attempt to try and salvage what I could, I went to the neighboring university library from 8 a.m. until around 8 p.m. I would just stay in the library, of course, take a few breaks in between with some of my friends who also joined me, and take a few breaks, but I would just study, just focus was my my aim. Like, just get your head down and do this. Try as I might, that didn't quite work. I still just got below average grades, and it just about got me into university, probably because of my personal statement. And I was getting remarks from teachers and stuff like that saying, she's trying really hard, like, you know, for parents meetings, she's trying really hard, but she's not achieving it. And I was just like, what's going on? Why is this not working? So I went on to, we were having dinner one day with my parents over the weekend, and my dad at the time was doing his dissertation for his master's in construction law at the time. And he said that one of his professors who was reviewing his dissertation said, they were just having a discussion, and Dad explained what he was trying to convey in his dissertation to the lecturer, the professor, and he was just like, the professor said, I understand what you're saying, but why aren't you showing that in your written work? And you've got really good ideas, but why aren't you sharing that in your written work? And then the professor suggested, perhaps you have dyslexia. And Dad was just like, what's that? And he did some more research into it, and then he at that one dinner that we had in the evening, he discussed it over the table and said all these different problems that he was having, like trying to process information, trying to memorize things, like his short-term memory and long-term memory. Our long-term memory is really good, short-term memory is not so good, so that's why when you learn something and then have to put it into exams immediately after, that's not a great way for us to learn. So that was just, yeah, and many other problems. And I was just like, and I finally decided to speak up and say, you know, I'm having those same problems. And then we all got ourselves tested. My dad did, I did. He was found to be dyslexic. I was found to be dyslexic. And I think what was great at that point was it took a while for the educational psychologist to come back with his report. And he spent a good hour and a half or 2 hours with me going through different various tests. I think some of those tests you'll find with, you know, you get those assessments for job interviews that you have sometimes.
Oh yes, yes.
Lots together and find out if it fits, what's the right fit, like those kinds of tests. And that's what I was doing in those 2 hours. And we found out that he was able to identify my strengths and weaknesses, and how I was processing things, and that information helped him to diagnose me, of course, at the time. And I am so glad that happened. I am so glad, because it really changed my life. Of course, I wasn't able to implement it at school because it was exam period, my last exams for A levels. And I think maybe 1 or 2 exams I got about a little extra time, but yeah, it didn't help. I just, even though I tried after getting the report back to implement some of the things, it wasn't enough time. It was just like, it wasn't working. What I was doing was not working. So somehow managed to get into university, and it all worked. So I started it straight away. I got the reading list, tried to, like I was speaking to you a moment ago, just trying to visualize like how I'm going to do this learning. And I read loads of books over the summer before I started university about how I could deal with my dyslexia, and that report identifying my strengths and weaknesses really helped me identify what was best for me in terms of how I learn. And I did a lot of wider reading around it as well, in terms of what are the different ways I could actually make the most of it. And yeah, it was life-changing. And then at university, I had a mentor that worked with me for about maybe a month. No, maybe it was 2 or 3 months, and it was just once a fortnight. She would just go through how I was processing information, because that was one of the issues that I had with my dyslexia, and it opened so many doors. From being below average at A levels, I got the best scores for my course at my first year in university. It worked. It finally worked. My learning style. And you know what? I loved my first year of university, and because I was finally able to understand and retain. And in class, I was confident again. I would put my hand up each time. Teachers would look around, like the professors would look around for someone else to answer the question. This is the first. Before, at school, I was quiet. I didn't want to be picked on. I didn't want to answer any questions. And being at school really like demoralized me in terms of my learning journey. So I'm so glad that I was able to identify that, and that's part of why I want to be a learning coach. And I want to share with anyone out there who's also struggling like me. It doesn't have to be a person who's dyslexic, or I know, try as we might, sometimes it just does not work. What I find is that the education system, teachers are actually taught to some teachers, you're a teacher yourself.
I was, yes.
Module where there's a module, or there's some part of it which they would have said that you're able to identify individuals in class who might be on the spectrum, or might need a referral to another educational psychologist or in the school. And they're supposed to do that. And in my first year of uni, because I was reading law, there was this one case that came up where it talked about where this individual was not diagnosed, and there were clear signs that this student was dyslexic, and was not was not identified, was just called the problem child in the class, was called the person who was disturbing everyone. And when I read that case, I was in the library, and no, actually, I was in a lecture at the time, and the lecturer was talking about that case. I just burst out into tears because that's how frustrating it was for me. It's just like they have a duty, teachers have a duty to identify and refer students like this. And I'm just imagining there are so many more
Probably
individuals
are.
who've gone through the same thing as me, or even worse conditions. And I can confirm that there are, for sure, there are so many groups out there on social media and other ways as well, where they've shared their stories and they've had similar circumstances. But yeah, I have somehow managed to find a way and love my learning journey and love learning that, and I never want to stop. So that's what I'd like to share with anyone who wants to, and I'm willing to help if they would like that help, because I find